immediately takes a sip. I've got
of the coffee.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second WAVIT podcast episode. We are officially virtual now, this will be the case for most episodes. But we have an esteemed guest yet again. Her name's Alesia Hendley. Fantastic guest. I'm super excited about this. So I'm going to let her introduce herself, and then Chrissy and I, well, you already know us, but we'll jump right in after that.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for having me, ladies. Happy to be here. Congratulations on starting the show. Hopefully it is everything you want it and need it to be. But I'm Alesia Hendley. A lot of people know me as the Smooth Factor from socials and all that good stuff, videos, blogs, podcasts, whatever the case is. I try to make sure you see me online and you see me in person. But I've been in AV officially for 12 years now. Audio girl at heart, and just found my way into a lot of different avenues that helped me grow my career over time. So I've been end user, I've been in-house integrator, I've been on the manufacturing side, and seems to be a good fit so far. So just trusting the journey and trying to follow it as it grows, I guess.
Yeah, you're pretty big in the industry already. Your presence is not to be ignored. Whether you're at a show with your camera crew or online, you've already made such a difference in so many lives. So what's a fun fact for somebody who hasn't met you before, IRL?
Fun fact. I love turtles. Yes. That's that. I feel like that's a random fact. I think most people know that I have dogs, fur babies, but nobody knows that I have a turtle. So I have a turtle, and I mean, I live in Florida, so I like the water. The beach is my happy place. That's kind of what brought me here. If I'm gonna have to deal with crap every day, I should be close to a beach, so I can go wash it off. Not necessarily crap every day. Is it crappy? But when you have those times where you just need to go and like reconnect instead of having to take a week-long PTO vacation, I could just do that every morning or every evening. So I guess those are some fun facts.
Is that how you stay like present and motivated? That's actually one of the listener submitted questions. It feels like you're always so present. Whoever you're talking to, you're like in there, you're right there with them. You're not distracted. Is that one of the ways you kind of like recoup to have all that energy?
Yeah, recouping is become a big deal. I used to just go and go and go until I was burnt out, and then that didn't help anybody. It didn't help me either. So I was like, all right, I gotta figure something out to have a better balance. So definitely recouping is, I guess, how I keep my energy high. Because the people, and it's weird because when I'm not smiling, people always think it's weird. They're like, oh, something must be wrong with Alesia or something. But it's like, I'm not, like, don't get me wrong, I'm very like happy and bubbly most of the time. But when I'm at home chilling or I'm on a 2-hour meeting, sometimes I'm just not smiling. That doesn't mean I'm not happy, but definitely recouping. Honestly, just staying grateful. I try to remind myself of how far I've come frequently, because sometimes I'm super driven. So sometimes I get very caught up in the next thing and the next thing, the next thing. So I try to stay grounded by remaining grateful and by being present. That was just something I learned over time because it was a kind of a pet peeve of mine when I would be speaking with someone or trying to engage with someone or learn something from someone and they were just like not there. You know what I mean? Like not present, not engaged. And I was like, why don't people engage with people? I feel like that's like the simplest thing we can do as human beings and kind of get to know each other better is just by being present, even if we have opposing ideas on how something should be done. But being present is, I feel like we're halfway there. If we could at least, you know what I mean? If we could engage and be present with each other. So I noticed that I didn't like that in certain situations. So I wanted to make sure that in every encounter I have with people, I want to make sure that I'm present and I try to remember certain things about them. So when we meet again, they know that it wasn't just a random situation. Like,
right.
I get it. We connected for a reason. It might not be for, next month or to do business or something in the next 3 years. But I feel like everybody we come in contact with, it's for a reason. So I try to be present and make sure that it's meaningful because first time impressions are everything. So I try to make sure mine are at a good level of engagement.
I find that too when I'm meeting new people in the industry or just meeting people that I've maybe heard of for a while and hadn't had a chance to have a face-to-face conversation is I'm always going to meet. There can always be two levels of depth going on, right? Whether they're comfortable with themselves in the conversation or they're putting on a facade. Either way, I know I'm going to show up authentically, so at least I know I'm presently there in my own way, and it has given me a lot of flexibility with meeting different people of different kind of emotional awareness and also different positions in the industry as well, because sometimes they can't be authentic with you right then and there, but maybe later in the day or later in a different, maybe at a dinner or something, you get a little bit more of their real self. So I find the first impressions thing is definitely a key to opening that door to let them know that I truly do want to connect with them. It's not just me talking, talking out my rear end.
Yeah. And I mean, I could be a lot sometimes, everybody's like, Alesia, you're very extroverted. I'm like always, especially if it's at like Infocom or something, I'm juiced, right? I'm in it. I'm in the zone and I know what I'm coming here to do. But sometimes, I don't know, maybe somebody's a first timer and they're a little bit more, introverted or shy. I try to match that energy, but also let them know like, hey, this is genuinely me. So I can only dumb it down so much. But if you need something, reach out when you get more comfortable. But yeah, the social and emotional awareness is super important. And I think that's where it came from. I grew into that because I wasn't always the way I am now. I used to be on the other side of it where I was super shy and didn't necessarily know how to work a room or engage with people. So I think that is something that you just grow into over time, the more you do it.
Yeah, that was one of the questions that we had. It kind of builds off of that. So you're saying that it took you a while to be fully authentic within the community. And I guess their question was, how are you building a community while being your authentic self and you're not afraid to do that? What got you to the point you're at today?
Yeah, I'm not afraid. That's interesting. I was very afraid, to be honest. And if we're having a fully just open conversation, when I first got into this industry, I was really just trying to put the perception out that this is going to sound crazy, so don't judge me. But I was trying to create this perception of, hey, I'm a white man, right?
Oh, like, interesting.
I felt like that was the only way I could get ahead, as if my outside perception to the world would be acceptable by a white man. So I paid attention to how I dressed. Like my partner at the time would be like, you need to wear makeup because that was a thing. Like you need to kind of do these little things that were not me. Like I hated it. And it made me like not grow within my career. It made me not grow as a person. It made me feel like I was in a box. And when I changed all of that is when everything changed and it had more of an uphill trajectory of things becoming better all around, not just for me personally, but for my career. It seemed like my tribe started flocking to me instead of trying to fit into boxes that I thought I needed to be in or rooms I thought I needed to be in. So I always say my personal life is very reflective of my career because I've done so much personal growth to continue climbing the ladder, if that makes sense. So it was not easy. I was very afraid for a long time. I was very quiet for a long time on saying certain things and going certain places and trying to do certain things because I felt I had to stay in this box. But eventually you kind of get tired. You realize you got to change something up. And then that's how it developed. Alesia's like, yeah, people are like, Alesia, you always got nice suits on. And it was like, well, man, I couldn't show up in my J's and fitted hat because, you're not going to give me a job then, right? Or I can't show up like I would to my family reunion with my flops on. It was like, so I had to find a way to put my own swag into something that was acceptable. Again, going back to what I felt like my male white counterparts would consider acceptable. And then when I kind of found myself and you blend that with professionalism and whatever your own version of professionalism is, then it starts exploding and people start accepting you for who you are. But that's very tough to break out of in the early stages because it's an experiment. And it's an experiment within yourself too, right? Like soul searching and finding yourself. So it's tough. It's not easy.
Do you think that along the way you made any mistakes. Maybe you went too far this way and you weren't finding the balance with professionalism, or vice versa. Kind of what I'm hearing is that it's different for everyone, looks different. You can't just copy paste, that journey to an authentic community.
Well, I think that's what brings these conversations to light, is the inspiration. Like, for instance, I've known Alesia for 5 years. We've known of each other, but
we've known of each other.
Oh, okay. I was like, what? I thought you guys didn't know each other. Okay.
This is the first time her and I have had the opportunity to sit and talk face to face. And I don't know about your perspective at all of me, but my perspective of you was like, she's a badass bitch, and I'm going to be that one day too. Like,
and that's crazy, because that's my perception of you, and that's probably why we don't get to sit down and chop it up, because you're off doing your thing, I'm off doing my thing. We see each other, we embrace, we're like, hell yeah, keep busting up,
keep doing it. That's what, and every time we've high-fived or given each other a quick, fist bump or a hug or glance or whatever the heck, it was always like, all right, let's do it. Like, it was fuel to whatever it is I was running off to, because you were running off and doing it your own way as well. And it's just been the inspiration too. As Lex said earlier, like how many lives you've influenced already. I think too, going to that professionalism is sometimes the three of us are, so driven in our lives that we forget to stop and realize that we've already been doing a lot of the work naturally too, because of that aspect of being driven and that aspect of, okay, I got to grab that next Easter egg and move on to that next thing. And to Lex's point of it, collectively, three of us have had 3 different journeys to come to this place where we can finally put ourselves on microphone and say, hey, we're here. And I think it's beautiful. It's a lot of, it's not comfortable at all, is the point too, which I love that you were sharing that part of it. Like the fear and the uncomfortability. I think for me, I've learned how to just walk along with it instead of thinking that fear meant that it was bad for me to be doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you had, how have you managed your fear in the early stages? If you remember, what did you say, 12 years ago? Yeah. How did you start realizing fear was a friend?
Lots of crying. like literally, like I'm a Pisces, so I feel every emotion very heightened, whether that's happy, sad, anger. I can literally be the happiest person in the world and I'll just bust out crying, right? Or like I'm angry and I'm just crying. People are like, oh, you're such a whatever. But lots of crying. And learning how to manage the emotions, I should say, because no matter what, like honestly, in the beginning and to this point now, it feels very much the same. Like that fear, that anxiousness, that excitement, that scary, oh my God, I can't do this. And it's like, listen, this is your 100th time doing this. Why are you telling yourself you can't do it? So like managing those emotions in the moment and knowing that they are there regardless of what step of the journey. Like it hasn't gone away. It's just me being, I don't even want to say I'm comfortable with them, because they're uncomfortable, right? But I'm learning how to be comfortable in just this constant uncomfortable journey of where I'm trying to get. And sometimes it gets blurry, but it's fun. It's fun, right? Because it helps you grow as a person.
Yeah, and growth is just not always comfortable. I mean, growing pains, that there's a reason that that's like a thing. But you were totally just speaking to my soul. I'm a Pisces too, but not that that's really the focus of it. But like, are you
in March or are you in February?
March.
What? How can we have not known this? When's your birthday?
Do, because I think I texted you about your birthday, and then I was like, oh, twins.
Do I suck and not text you back? Happy
no,
birthday?
You did. Like a week later. You're
good. What day was your birthday?
March 2nd.
March 2nd. Okay. Yes, I think we had this. Okay, I'm the 6th. All right, back.
We're close. No, but it's even like at InfoComm or anything that's like I'm meeting a lot of people and I'm a lot more public than normal because I work virtually. It feels like so much pressure how I'm showing up. And I remember right when I started the career, even my career in AV specifically, even kind of right now, I was looking at other people's journeys and I'm looking at it like an equation. I'm like, if I do that plus that, then this will happen. And so I was looking at my male counterparts and thinking, okay, this is a math equation, I can do it. And I was starting to do it. And it just felt so inauthentic. I wasn't attracting the type of people who felt like my community and like I could really truly bond with them on experiences. So those relationships, while they're great, and I love everyone I know in the AV industry, it wasn't really deep or to the point where I can ask people for advice because we weren't on the same wavelength. But it like had so many emotions involved because I was like, but I just want to talk to somebody about this because it's just, I don't know, what feels right, what feels wrong, right? Why does this feel so uncomfortable? Should it feel uncomfortable? But I think, ultimately, you can't get into new places of growth without being uncomfortable. Even every one of us knows what it feels like starting a new job. And you're like the first 30 to 90-ish days, you're just like, I'm just trying to figure out how this company vibes, how we work together. And it just takes a while to catch your stride. And everyone's journey looks very different there. So that was this. These are the types of conversations that I'm like so glad, everything worked out, because just hearing that one thing was like something I've been wondering about and have never put into words. And then you just kind of said that. So I thought that was so cool.
I mean, therapy is also really good. It helped me think about things, process things,
Yeah.
And going back to managing those emotions. So life.
Lex, I had to comment on something that just like blew my mind that you just said, where you were like, I saw it as an equation. I saw where I wanted to go as an equation. And the craziest thing is I've seen it as a game, not an equation. So I've seen it as, okay, if I move my chess pawn over here, this one's going to move over there. Maybe, I don't know, but what is the other entity going to do? And one example of that is kind of looping in both of our perspectives, or all three of our perspectives, is that when I first got in the industry, my very, very first job in the industry was after all my freelance gigs, was broadcast news. And I was a producer there. And I've said this a million times. But from that job to the last job I just got hired for, the hiring process for me has been entirely different. Where the broadcast news job, I was like, here's my left arm, here's my kidney, here's my everything. Like, I just want to get the job, right? And then now I'm like, okay, hold on. I need to decide how much of this is going to work for me, just as much as how much of me is going to work for you, right? So I'm a lot more strategic now because I understand my own plays better and how much energy I actually want to put forth, and honestly, simply just can put forth, right? So I feel less about it being, that's so cool that you think that it was an equation, or that your mind processes it as an equation, because for me, I felt the very similar pressures that we're all talking about here, but just in a very different way. And I wonder how much of that has helped me navigate the professional side while also navigating the technical side and doing this like yin yang thing. Which brings me to, I don't even know if it's one of our questions, but I have to ask, Alesia, is the move to your current roles, how much has that yin yang been for you with keeping technically balanced as well as professionally balanced? What does that look like for you?
Well, I mean, I kind of get that question a lot, because some people say, Alesia, why don't you just go full into media? Why do you still work for other companies? Why don't you just do your own thing? And I'm like, well, I leverage my technical background so much in everything that I do. I'm not willing to give it up just yet. Like, I came from running the boards, like literally. Yep. I was behind the boards running full-blown stadiums, directing, running concerts. Like, that was life, so being a part of the technical side and being able to have those conversations and not have to hand it off to a guy, I'd rather still be in the trenches and having people ask me, are you the technical person I should talk to? Damn right. What's your question? Yep. You know what I mean? Like, that keeps me motivated. Like, I need that. And just the education behind it, right? There's just so much to learn. Technology is always moving so fast, and it all weaves together. like the media stuff, it weaves with the technical things because I'm able to ask different questions than other journalists that may have not ever touched any of this equipment or know how a back end is programmed or things like that, right? In my day job, I can go in and talk to end users and say, hey, you know, I was utilizing this when I was an end user, or, you know, be that person of resource to where they don't feel they have to always call tech support. They know they can call me and we'll get through it together. And I mean, I don't claim to know everything. There's still a lot that I can't sometimes dive into because things are constantly changing and programming and all the different systems, right? So I also rely on my team very heavily, like, you know, my technical engineers and just other people who I've worked closely with over the years that have helped me grow in the space and continue learning. I lean on them heavily, and it's always a learning game, but I feel everything is wrapped around the technology, and I refuse to let that part of me go or knowledge go, right? So I'm in business development now, but I like business development so much because I feel it's the perfect intersection of, you know, knowing the technology, kind of being a salesperson, and also being kind of marketing, right? Like you're literally having to help market and tell the story of a company because so, you know, business development's cool, but it's all wrapped up around the technology. It's a constant wrap around that one pillar. I would say within my content triangle is technology, and everything revolves around that.
And you're able to offer like such better perspectives than a lot of people who aren't fully, or you know, who haven't dived into coming from the back end of everything. Like even right now I work in higher education, and it makes that much more of a difference that I started out as like a student, you know, tech student tech support when I was in college. Like it just makes all the difference starting from a student, being able to talk with my professors, see how they dealt with the technology, moving all the way now to higher ed, and being on the other side, supporting from the other side. That perspective is, you know, irreplaceable.
That's beautiful. I love that.
She's clapping.
I love it. It's a beautiful story of how it all evolves, and it's kind of a full circle moment. And that goes back to like when you sit back and you reflect on things, right? But being hands-on and that transition into things, it makes it all just make sense in a weird way.
So I wanted to ask, you know, you were talking about creating your own platform and like having your own journey, and that it's not always an equation. This is kind of random, but you're really big for your Friday grinds on Twitter. Did that just start randomly, or was that something strategic?
At first it wasn't strategic. It actually came from me and my cousins when we were younger. That's how we kind of motivated each other to go after whatever we were going after, right? I mean, people around the neighborhood always said it too. Like we just out grinding, right? Everybody was trying to chase something, chase some kind of dream that seemed unattainable, and it was that phrase that kept us going. And it wasn't just Fridays, like rise and grind, let's get it, you know. And then over the years, I was like, as I started using social media for more of a work platform, or kind of trying to marry those two things, it grew into me telling myself that, like, all right, Alesia, let's get up, rise and grind, you know. And then everybody started catching on to it. So now it's kind of been it's a fun thing to do, right? Because now you got some people who is like, oh no, we ain't grinding on no Fridays, you know, like grind culture kind of has a bad perception now. And I feel like since the pandemic, a lot has changed, right? Everybody's like, fuck the grind, you know, like we need mental health days. We need to focus on ourselves. But like, I get that. I've never been like all in, like, don't take care of yourself, right? Like there's a balance. But so it's really fun to do it on Fridays and get people, you know, engaged and active. So it eventually became more strategic, more fun, just trying to engage the community and, you know, see what people are up to. But it initially started out as, yo, let's get it. Like me making a statement to myself, this is what we got to do to get to the next level, and let's go. Rise and grind.
Love it.
Go ahead, Chrissy.
Oh, I was just saying, I love it. And I always look forward to those tweets on Friday morning, because for me, especially in this new role that I have now, it's a lot more desk work. It's a lot more monotonously sitting and looking at a screen. My brain's running 100 miles an hour every day, as it should, But like by Friday, I'm just so exhausted and so ready to be doing something different than sitting at my desk looking at a screen.
Right.
And so I always love that extra encouragement to just be like, nope, still Friday, still got to work, still got to do it, just get it done.
Almost there. And it's crazy because that tweet used to come out 7 days a week. I used to work, when I was an end user, I had crazy scheduling, right? It didn't matter what. You got to work the shows, whatever time the show is, you got to get set up for the next day. You got to tear it down and make the next event, make sure that's ready for the next day. So it was always something. It was always something. So it wasn't just Fridays. Now I try to push for Fridays because I have a more balanced schedule. Thank God, no weekends. So that's great. It's part of the journey, but it's really fun to hang out with the community, talk a little shit on Fridays, and try to stay motivated to get that push until 5:00.
Absolutely.
When I was reading your profile, I was sleuthing on your LinkedIn profile, and one of the in your about, it talks about how you want to make an impact, not just an impression. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and your thoughts, feelings, whatever?
I mean, I think everybody has the capability to make an impression, and we all do, right? I mean, Lex, your first impression of me is probably different from Chrissy's, right? But this kind of goes back to being present in those moments when you know that you're making an impression or connecting with somebody. I never want it to be just an impression, right? Like, oh, she seems cool, and then walk away and that be it. Like, I want to leave some kind of significance, or I want people to feel things when they meet me. I just want there to be all around some kind of impact, and hopefully in a positive way, because I don't have any children. I don't plan on having any children, so my impact is my legacy, in my opinion. So that's more of where I was coming from with that.
I love that. We were actually chatting a little bit before we started recording about, these different nonprofits and orgs and groups, kind of like WAVIT, who are looking to make an impact in the industry. What are your thoughts there? I'm kind of leading you into the conversation we had before, but I really think the audience will like your perspective, and I think it's a good challenge for us.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think it's a secret. I think a lot of my close friends know, and obviously a lot of people within the industry know as well, that I haven't been a part of any groups when it comes to women's councils or women's initiatives or diversity groups or just any of that. And that's across the board, and no specific industry, no specific association, whatever. It's all of those things. I don't want to be part of it. Especially, over the last, I say 2 to 4 years, there's just been a lot of controversy in the media that didn't make it any better, right? A lot of things became buzzwords, and then it was like, oh, we have to do this to be seen in this moment. And then, all right, the moment's done. It's no longer in the news. We're no longer talking about these things. We're no longer having these conversations. But most of all, I just got kind of tired of having the ongoing conversations, but also having to be the person that had the answers, right? Like, oh, Alesia, this is happening in the world. What do you think we should do? Like, I don't have to know. Like, I don't have the answers, right? But it just kind of felt like, because I was a version of so many different minority groups, I was always being pulled on for the answer. When I was in moments of very, very strong frustration. So I decided to remove myself because I was frustrated for a lot of reasons, but also because I just felt we were not making the right impacts. We were just talking about it, and we were talking about a lot of it during buzzworthy times, and then just die off. And I was like, I don't have time for this. I'm trying to build a career. I'm already mad. The media is making me mad. I don't need, colleagues making me mad at the, so I was just like, I'm not going to do any of this until we figure out how we either put our money where our mouths are, because honestly, the impact could be driven a lot faster if people actually said, here's some money. Like, here is some money towards these initiatives, or actually make an action. Like, yes, we bought a program where we ran all of our HR things, and we noticed that every woman in our company was paid less. So we changed that. Great. Can we actually do that instead of talking about how much less we are paid? And that was another I was like, I just can't take it. Yes, I know that I'm the lowest paid person in the industry. I'm a Black woman that's lesbian. Great. What are we gonna do about it? You gonna help me out?
You're right.
You're gonna give me a couple. You're gonna give me a couple of stacks to put in my wallet or something. Like, I don't know what you want me to do in this situation. But I literally could not take it anymore. So I chose to step away. And again, this is to no particular group, association, or anything. It was just me as an individual, and this is how I feel. I'm not as frustrated because I've stepped away from a lot of it, turn a lot of things off, right? Media wise. But yeah, that's just me. That's just where I am. And I felt I could make more of an impact in like doing individual things that I do behind the scenes that might not necessarily be done on a grand stage. It's not done on a panel, right? But the interactions I have with people off camera, like at dinner or in a hallway at a trade show where we just talk and we are just busting out crying, right? Like there's other ways to make impact for people and create opportunities for people you want to see in certain places in our industry. And I felt like I could just do more of that without being a part of the constant circle, vortex of ongoing conversation with nothing happening.
Right.
But again, this is just me. I don't know if everybody else is as frustrated as I've been the last few years, but it's just so many things happening in so many different ways and so many different communities. And it's like, where do we start? How do we truly make an impact and not just keep talking about it? So it's, I don't know. Some people are mad at me that I'm not. Some people are like, I get it. And some people are just like, whatever, you're Alesia. You can kind of do whatever you want. And I'm like, can I? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
I love that. And I have felt this a very similar way too. And that's why I'm excited to be part of something now, because I feel like you and I are kind of very similar in this, that we've figured out how to manage ourselves well enough to present a very authentic person every time we present ourselves. So it doesn't matter what it is, right? Because it doesn't matter the group or the affiliation or the anything. It says, okay, here I am. Here's what I am made out of. And here's what I'm always going to be made out of in this standard of value and morals. So this is what I'm going to say. If you don't like it, you don't like it. And I have had these similar experiences of being asked to be part of things. And I'm just like, well, what's the narrative behind that? And it's always very light. There's not a lot of substance. Mm-hmm. And I would rather like to be part of something that's going to truly make a difference in some way, shape, or form. But I love that you brought up the part about the trade show floor conversations. I've been recently exploring a side of me I'd love to hear your perspective on for you as well, where being on camera all the time, right, for work, and maybe going to trade shows and being on there, and then I come home and I kind of relax and put my hair down, and I'm just like, how much am I the same person in that moment as I am in front of people? And then also, what of that is okay to balance over to the other side, right? And to say, hey, this is just who I am. Like I think part of that too scares people, because it means that I'm very bold and proud to be authentic, and they're maybe not there yet. So the who you are, but when the cameras are turned off, is so important to me, and also to my career, because hopefully people feel that I'm the same person when we're sitting down having a drink versus when I'm on camera here or at a show or on stage teaching or whatever I'm doing.
Exactly.
I feel like you feel something similar. What are your thoughts?
No, I used to struggle with that a lot, because I felt like if I wasn't on all the time, I wasn't being real. But my partner now, she's great. She's beautiful. And she told me, just because you're not that all the time doesn't mean that it's not you. You know what I mean? Like, that is a part of you, and you don't always have to be that. And if you're not that doesn't mean you're not being you, if that makes sense. Like, I know that was a lot of that. She said it in a more profound way, by the way. Anyways, but like, there's different versions of yourself, and that's okay. Like, that doesn't make you any less than who you are. But as long as you show up authentic in each of those forms, then that's all that matters, because you're still being you. Like, yeah, I'm not on camera, I'm just chilling, having a drink, but I'm still goofing around. I'm still smiling. You might get a little happy dance here and there when the food comes out, right? Because that's just me. I'm gonna freaking dance, right? But
I don't know if anyone has seen Inside Out, the first one, the second one that was in
I haven't
theaters
seen
right
it
now.
yet. I haven't seen it yet.
It's so good, by the way. But there's a portion where it shows her personality, and it's like this like moving entity, and it has
Mhm.
so many like cells, and it's constantly changing, and each little string that it's made out of is something that she identifies herself with, like, I'm really strong, I'm a great friend, or different things like that. And it's made up of all of our experiences. And then I just think it's what you were saying was so interesting, because I think we put ourselves in a box, and these are the words that this is how I identify myself, but it's not. It's ever changing, ever moving. What did you go through today, last night? That could also change how you're coming across to people. And that's just but it just takes time to really develop that community, so that they know, you, when you're quiet, is still the same you that they have come to know and love in a public space.
Yeah.
um
It's
I
like those
do.
insight blocks. You guys know the insight test where everybody's like, "What color are you? Are you green, blue? Are you red, green?" Or have y'all heard of that?
No, I haven't heard these ones yet. The I know like Myers-Briggs
Yeah,
and
Myers-Briggs and
this
stuff like
and
that.
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that,
it's very similar. The insight test, it has these blocks of colors. There's like a yellow, green, red, and blue, and each color represents what personality type you're supposed to be. And this is how your managers or upper management
I know now. I
figure
know
out
now what you're
who
talking
you
about.
are as an individual. And I feel like for so long I was like, I gotta be this freaking yellow block. You know what? Yellow is my
Mhm.
favorite color. I'm gonna be this yellow block all the time. And it was like, bro, today I'm blue. Okay. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, and it's okay to be every color. Like I don't know why
Yeah.
we constantly put ourselves into these boxes or colors or whatever the heck, but
I
it's ever evolving.
I wanted to jump back to something you said
Yeah.
about the whole community thing before we get too far past it, or these orgs. I think for me, I was, you were saying what you were saying, and I was thinking, okay, how do I truly feel about it? Just
Mhm.
really sitting down and thinking, and I'm like, why don't I feel as frustrated at times? And I think part of the reason why I don't feel frustrated is because, and this is not necessarily good, could be neutral, I don't know, is because I felt like I've never even been in a position to really change much of anything. Like, I'm not a decision maker. So
Mm.
I remember, and again, might sound controversial, but for me, I think for me, it's all working towards a future something. It's like, I want to create a community, create these conversations, create these connections, so that the next generation of decision makers are hopefully there to be frustrated enough or to be knowledgeable enough about saying, okay, I've been talking about this for years. Now I'm in a position where I can make that change, and I could talk to key people now that I know them in my network, to say, why aren't we running these stats? Why aren't we doing something about it? Why aren't we putting our money where our mouth is, or maybe our actions where our mouth is, if money isn't there yet?
Mhm.
But so for me, when I joined WAVIT, I mean, I won't lie, I joined WAVIT initially because it was a group of women I already knew and loved starting it, and I want to support my friends. And
Yeah.
then it became something where I was like, okay, but I actually want to meet people. So then I created this. And then now it's starting to be like, okay, these are conversations. I'm hoping we're having conversations that aren't always had. And I'm hoping that people who are in positions to be able to do things like that are able to, bring that up. And hopefully the conversation is semi comfortable enough to bring up. But yeah, that's what I was thinking when you kind of was saying that thing. But then I was like, why am I thinking towards the future versus right now? Because now then I'm becoming a part of the problem of like not actually putting anything into action.
Right.
Mhm.
And I just didn't even hold that responsibility for myself. But then part of the other side of it is like, kind of like your thought is, I can only, like, it's so frustrating. I can't make a difference in these organizations or in my company or whatever. So I'm just going to do me and try to make that impact coming from myself. So maybe that's ultimately the solution. If we're all thinking that way, like, okay, I'm going to do as much as I can to make a difference. And then if we're all thinking that way, maybe those people who are thinking that way in those companies are able to make those decisions. I don't know if that makes sense.
No,
Yeah.
it makes total sense. And ultimately, that's why I like having these conversations with so many people, because it puts on a light bulb. I loved sitting here watching that light bulb come on above your head. Like, yeah, it was awesome. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, we all join the groups for different reasons. We all are a part of things for different reasons. But you know, just because yours is different than mine, you know, doesn't mean that you're making less of an impact, or, you know what I'm saying, you're doing it your way. And yeah, that light bulb was great. You should, in the edit, put the light bulb up there.
It is interesting. It feels like sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You know, one day I
Oh.
feel really supported by my community and industry, and the next day somebody says something that I'm like, "What? Why would you say that? That's
Yeah.
not cool at all to say."
Yeah.
Everyday life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting balancing that, trying to move forward, you know, in these conversations, but also realizing we're all human and, you know, we're all working through our own uh, whatevers personally or professionally. So I'm glad that that came up. That was good.
I'm glad we're having the conversation openly. You know, I feel like we just need more of that. Everything doesn't have to be on a grand stage, or, you know, this big panel, or in a group. Like, let's just chop it up, you know, like, let's just all chop it up more, see each other's perception and perspectives, and figure out what do we do as individuals. And then, like you said, we start doing that individually. It could turn into a grand scheme of things to where we actually maybe have a group one day that is driving, you know, the change that we want to see. So it's a collective effort, and it always will be.
I firmly believe that we will. And I think that this era that I'm in as a person who is interested in creating change is part of that solution now. We had a conversation with our last episode with Althea and Gina, and Althea kept just like pushing this energy on me, like, you already are the change, like, you already are doing it. And one thing that I wanted to say back to her, which I did, was, you've helped give me the platform to do that. And so now I have to stop thinking that I'm clawing my way out of this hole when the hole's already been dug for me. Let me go ahead and start putting the ladder steps in, right? And so we are the three of us, and the people listening, and the women who are looking into us thinking, oh, one day I want to be like her. Though we are now that next chapter of that path. So I firmly believe that there will be actual change coming forth in our workforce, in our society, as time goes on. And now I get to be part of that chapter of it, and have the support that we have in the background, and the leading ladies, so to speak, and then being a leading lady, and then mentoring those that are coming forward after that. Like, it's just so cool to me.
That's a part of our branding for WAVIT. It's kind of the idea that, you know, like ripples create waves, and we're all our own drops. And I'm really encourage you guys to watch Inside Out, because I'm feeling a lot of similarities there. But you know, these like balls of memories or experiences come down, and adds to her personality, into who she is and how she shares herself and what she believes about herself. So I feel like it's so similar here, where it's just we can all add, all of our experiences can add bits to, you know, or little drops into the pool, and we create ripples, and which makes waves. And I hope we make waves of change eventually. I hope that I mean, I can't speak to anything, but I truly hope that this ends up being something that makes a decent amount of change. I don't know what is realistic, but I'm hoping that these conversations and the community we're building is going to make a difference in some way. And that once we are all collectively starting to be in those positions where we can make bigger impacts, have bigger drops and ripples, and be in those positions, that we're brave enough to do so, and to represent and support other people who have shared their experiences.
Yeah.
Pressure, but no pressure.
So much pressure.
So all right. Pressure. So to end it out, do you have any big sister advice or anything you would just like to say? You don't have to, but do you?
Sister advice. I just say keep showing up. You know, Half of my battle or things that I've gone through, it just came from keep showing up. Like, oh, you want to fire me because I'm lesbian? All right, great. I'll go somewhere else and show up. Like,
Mhm.
oh, you don't want to give me a couple of extra freaking quarters. All right, I'll go somewhere else and get a couple of dollars. Right. Like, just literally just keep showing up. And make your presence felt and known. Be yourself. They can't ignore all of us, is what I constantly say. So even though women and people of color hold a small percentage of our industry, if we all show up in numbers and are doing business together and are doing projects together and are inspiring each other, I think we'll see the change. We'll see the change hopefully in 10 years instead of 20 years, right?
Yes.
We'll see numbers increase in 10 years instead of 20 years. And day by day, show up day by day, do what you can, and don't stress about what you can't. That's it. Like, that's all I got.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you so much for coming on. You do not have to be part of WAVIT to be a part of our greater mission and our greater movement, just to bring a sense of community and really just to meet each other and support each other wherever we are. So I appreciate you coming on, Alesia. You're a fantastic second guest. We've really been winning with guests so far. So I'm really proud of us.
Well, thank you, ladies, for having me. If there is a way that I could support and we get together and do some things that you think would be meaningful and impactful, please, my ears are always open. I'm always here to support any way I can.
And for our listeners, where can they find you?
Listeners can find me at the Smooth Factor. All the things at Smooth Factor, Twitter. Well, not LinkedIn. Even though if you type in Smooth Factor, I will come up.
No way.
But, Alesia Hendley. Cool. That's you'll find me there. Smoothfactor.com. Just reach out wherever you feel. And I'm always open.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone. Hope you enjoyed the episode and we'll see you next time.